The opinions expressed on the X and Y Show are the sole opinions of the host. Please note, there is no intentional desire to offend any member of the listening audience. With that said, if you still feel offended, tough shit.
It's time for the X and Y Show with your host, Mr. Roosevelt. He talks about man topics, lady topics, and relationships. He talks about love, sex, and infidelities. He even gives good tips. There is no other show that compares to the X and Y Show.
Oh yeah. Sit back, take your clothes off, and relax. It's time for the X and Y Show, where real relationship issues are talked about and addressed. The only place on the planet that tackles the topics that everyone wants to talk about, but no one is brave enough to address. Nothing escapes X and Y, baby. Now, here's your host, Roosevelt Colbert.
Welcome to my faithful guest of the X and Y Show. Tonight I have a treat for you. I would like to do an episode on therapy and how do people know that they need therapy. It's not just how do women know, because women, they're not the only ones in their relationship. Men need therapy as well. So this is for everyone, the X and Y, you get it? But I wanted to say that because every time, people always think that women are the ones that need therapy when men actually need therapy as well. And so tonight's a special treat. I'm talking to someone who actually had firsthand experience in this sort of thing. Her name is Kelly Smith. She's an author of a memoir called Signs in the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind. She's also hosts her own podcast called Let's Get Wicked Deep, and she's also a successful dating coach. So I want you to welcome to the X and Y Show, Kelly Smith. How you doing, Kelly?
I am doing very well. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited about this.
No problem. Thank you for coming to the X and Y Show and talking to me about this. I actually got an idea to do this type of show by hearing your episode on the Let's Get Wicked Deep podcast. So on your actually experiences with getting therapy. And this is something I wanted to talk about because my dealings with women in the past, when I was younger and, I would see that a woman was actually not there all the way. She was a little, I would just say she's crazy as hell. So I would not deal with her anymore. I don't have time for that shit. So now that I'm older and, I'm saying that, how many potential wives that I threw away, because of, my impatience or my inconsiderate behavior, actually, that a person actually needed help and I was not willing to, find out why she needed help or how much help she needed. I just said she's crazy as hell and kept moving. So, now that I'm older, I'm more attuned to that kind of thing. And I want to, help out my listeners who might be going through this as well. So tell me about your personal story on how you went through a bad relationship and how you actually decided or determined, that you actually needed professional help.
Well, I love the technical term, crazy as hell. Perfect. That's perfect. So it's a super interesting thing because when I was married for about 20 years or so. I actually was the crazy as hell person while I was married. I was actually the crazy as hell person before I got married, but he still married me anyway. So being the person that was sort of the crazy person on the front end, when you meet someone who's like that, I feel you really did do the right thing by walking away from that, because somebody won't get help unless they feel like they need it. So a lot of people, men and women both, won't go and seek out help because they don't necessarily understand that they need to have help. So after my marriage ended, I got into a toxic relationship, did not know it was toxic. Obviously, I wouldn't have gotten into it. But by the end of that toxic relationship, I remember laying on my floor in my bedroom. I do write about this in my book, and just thinking to myself, like, where did I go wrong? And I don't know exactly what it was that clicked with me, but I knew I was the person that needed to get help. And I didn't think I needed to get help because of the relationship I was in. I thought I needed to get help because I let 2 relationships fail. So there must be something wrong with me. And I wasn't wrong. There was something wrong with me. So I think a lot of times it's the way we grow up, what we are shown by our caregivers, how we feel about ourselves, things that we do go through as kids that will carry on into our relationships. And when you meet someone that may seem to be kind of crazy, probably because they have a lot of unresolved issues that they don't even realize they have to recover from or heal from. So after that toxic relationship, I got into a recovery program, and I saw my therapist as well. The recovery program I got into was great because it helped me to understand and realize why I was toxic and why I was controlling and why I was overbearing and why I was sort of, well, that's something that we're definitely conditioned to believe for a very long time, especially men.
Mm-hmm.
Men, if a man says, oh, I got cheated on and my heart's broken, everyone looks at him like, what's wrong with you? What's the big deal, you know? But I did a podcast recently about men who get cheated on and what that does to them. And that will completely destroy a man.
Yes.
It can destroy a woman as well, but like if you're dating, if you're out there as a woman and you're dating and you meet this guy and you think he's great, but he has all these walls up, chances are something traumatic happened to this man and he doesn't know how to talk about it. Women do. Women never shut up about it, but men, they don't know how to talk about things like that because they're perceived as weak. So when you meet someone and they have all these great qualities, but they have these walls up and they're just like, I'm not ready for a relationship or I'm not looking to commit to anyone, most likely it's because they were hurt and they don't know how to work through that.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I know a lot of guy friends who've gone through that, and they would never consider seeing a shrink, as we call them. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So okay, so Kelly, speaking on that, I want to deal with this from 2 different angles. How would a person actually know they need professional help after a bad relationship, and how would someone communicate to that person that they may benefit from getting help?
Oh, okay. So a person after a relationship ends, if you feel like you're maybe a different person than you were when you first got in, if you had experienced any kind of physical abuse, definitely. If you feel like you've experienced mental abuse, controlling, manipulation, name calling, any of those things would probably be good signs that you should go and see someone and kind of get some help with that. Even if you feel at all, if there's any inkling like, man, this relationship just wasn't right, or if your friends are kind of like, you're a different person now, you're not the same, if you're not doing the things that you used to do, like the things that you like, if your eating habits are off, or workouts, or your job is failing, things like that, chances are you were probably in a pretty rough relationship, and it would definitely benefit you and the people around you and your future partner to go and talk to someone about that and get an evaluation and see if maybe getting help on a regular basis is something that you would like to do, or if it would definitely benefit you, because it would only benefit your entire life, not just your relationship aspect of it. And as far as communicating to someone else, so do you mean like communicating to your former partner, or maybe like a friend telling you that you might need to go get some help?
Both.
Oh, okay. A former partner, I think that's kind of like the last thing people usually say when they break up. Go get some help, and then they hang up. Isn't that usually
Right.
the international sign of that the relationship is done? Get some help. I guess that part's kind of covered. But it's definitely like a tough thing to approach someone else, and I think like a lot of times we're from friends and family, we are told from them what we're supposed to do. They tell us what their beliefs are, and because they communicate it to us, they expect us to just listen, right? So
right.
And that comes up with all kinds of different things. But I think the way to do it is to definitely plant a seed and to say to one of your friends or someone that maybe was in a relationship where it's like that relationship was, kind of rough. Maybe you could, how do you think that relationship was toxic and this and that? Kind of talk to them about it, not talk at them about it, and say maybe you could talk to someone about it or, something like that, and kind of suggest what they might be able to do, and then just leave it, or send them an article about, Elephant Journal has a lot of articles about this stuff, so you can go through any Elephant Journal article and send it to one of your friends. And I think the biggest thing is like planting a seed, because there's really nothing worse than being bullied by people in your life to do something, because what it's going to do is make you get further away from what it is that they want. So it's definitely not an easy thing to talk about, but if you feel safe and comfortable, I think, there are a couple different ways. So either suggesting it or sending an article, or, just in conversation kind of mentioning, my friend went through X, Y, and Z, and they went and talked to this person, and now they're doing so much better, that sort of thing.
Right. See, and every situation is different. Every person is different. So, what might get through with one person might not get through with another. So I guess it depends on the person, so.
Mm-hmm.
So,
definitely.
Okay. Now, do you really ever get over a bad relationship? Or, can professional help completely heal you? Or is it just teaches you how to live with your pain for the rest of your life?
I have to tell you, I loved this question. I did not know I was going to fall in love tonight, but I did. So this is a great question because, like I was saying previously with me, I was in a toxic relationship. I went through recovery, healed a ton, still in recovery, still seeing my therapist. And what's happening now, I'm learning, is I don't know that you'll ever be completely healed, but I also do not feel you live with the pain. The pain does subside, but what happens is, and I can only speak from a toxic relationship, is a lot of the stuff that you go through within that toxic relationship, you don't really think about too much until you're in your next relationship. Because while you're single and while you're recovering, while you're figuring out who you are between that amazing space of, no longer and not yet, you're not thinking about relationship stuff because you're thinking about healing until you get into a relationship. And then sometimes those things can come up behind you and be like, boo, I'm still here.
Right.
So an example of that would be cheating. Say in your toxic relationship, you were cheated on a whole bunch. So you kind of work through everything you need to work through, you get through some stuff, and then you meet someone. And then all of a sudden, all these things and insecurities you had no idea you really had start popping up. So the best part about it is this, is like when you get into a recovery program or you do meet a great therapist, the biggest thing is maintenance. It's your continuation. So when you do have something like that pop up and you have an appointment already with your therapist set up, then you can go into that appointment and say, these are the things I'm concerned about. So your healing takes you really far up, right? Takes you really far up, like the game Chutes and Ladders. So you work your way all the way up to, I think it's number 88, right? But if you land on number 88, you got to slide all the way back down to number 3. So if you think of it kind of that way, where you continue working up, you just don't want to, get to the point where you slide all the way back down. So that's where maintenance comes in, where you see a therapist once a month or, something like that, where you no longer have to see someone on a continual basis because you're still living your life. You're putting to use all the stuff you've learned with your therapist or in your recovery program, and you're living your life. But of course, sometimes I think something's going to pop back up, and you're going to still need some help with it. I think a lot of times, myself included, I felt like, oh, I got this, I'm good now. Yeah, no, I'm literally not good right now. So let me call my therapist and make sure I can, see him, or I'll look at my calendar, okay, when am I going to see this guy? And then, I can make it until that day and then talk to him. So I think the maintenance part of it is huge, because I don't think you live with the pain, because I know with my last 2 relationships, I don't have any pain from any of those. I've healed from the people. You heal from the people, you get over the people, but a lot of times you struggle with the stuff that happened within the relationship.
Right.
And that's the part that people don't understand. So I had said to somebody one day, I was like, are you over your last relationship? And he said, I'm over her, definitely. No, are you over the relationship? Not the girl, but the stuff that happened in the relationship. And at that point, it was like, oh, wow, didn't even really think of that. Because you can be over the person, but not necessarily the things that you went through.
Yeah, right. So it basically is, it sounds to me like a toxic relationship and getting it's a lot like a drug, right? A drug problem, because an addict or someone who's an alcoholic or someone who's addicted to drugs, they go through a program, but they have to always go through the program because they will always be a drug addict or always be an alcoholic. They have to continue to go through the process and, go to the meetings and go to seeing someone or a sponsor, whatever it is. So it's just not like, okay, I'm healed now, I'm not an alcoholic, and see you. It's a lifelong thing, right? It's very similar.
It is a lifelong thing where it's like, as long as you're continuing to want to grow and want to learn and want to have a successful, healthy relationship, I think there's nothing wrong with some kind of maintenance. Now, what I do, it's interesting that you bring that up because I'm a dating coach, relationship coach, so I work with people who are leaving the toxic relationship behind, not the people that are in it and trying to get out, but once you're out and you don't want to go back, I work with people one-on-one to help them not go back. And it's interesting because I'll get messages where I feel like I need to talk to him. If I can just talk to him for a minute, I'll feel better. And it's in those very crucial moments where they reach out, because I'm constant contact, they reach out and they need help, and I help them to not reach out and to not go back, because you can be, clean and sober for 3 weeks and then make that one call and you got to start all over again. So that's exactly what it is. It's withdrawing from somebody. It's withdrawing from all of this. And once a lot of people are out of it and the fog clears, they realize it was never love. It was addiction. Wow. That's exactly what that is. And in the beginning of these relationships, you get love bombed, and it feels so good. It feels so nice. Slowly, over time, bits and pieces start coming out. And before you know it, like, the love bombing starts to trail off, and then the abuse starts to set in, and the manipulation, and you don't realize it because it happens so slowly. So I'll say, it's like this. It's like, imagine sitting in a pot of water, just say a pot of water, and someone turns the heat on. You don't notice it for a while because it slowly gets warmer and warmer. As you're sitting there, it gets warmer. Now, if you turn that same pot of water on and said to someone, boiling water, get in that, they'd be like, were you crazy? So I'm not getting in that water. Eventually, you end up in that water, but it's slow and over time, and they, warm you up to it, in a sense. So it's a tricky thing, and for people who have never experienced a relationship like that, they look at you like you have 10 heads. It's like, what is wrong with you? And then you're like, oh my God, there's a lot wrong with me, loaded question. But we can't figure out what we can't recognize. I'll give you a good example of that is in my toxic relationship, the person that I was with was a sex addict. Oh. I had no idea what a sex addict was, what they looked like. It wasn't something I had ever experienced. So when the signs were there, when the signs were illuminated and flashing in my face, I didn't pay attention to them because I had no idea that's what they were. So you can't acknowledge or recognize what you don't know. Now I know what they look like, but back then I had no idea, so I just kept moving forward because, I don't know, these flashing lights are so pretty, let's just keep going, you know what I mean? So it's a tough thing. So then when you see the signs like that, then when you start dating again, you start looking for the signs.
Right.
And then it's like, you got to reel yourself back in because not everyone's going to be a sex addict, so it can definitely be scary. So there's nothing wrong with getting someone that you can talk to for maintenance, even if it's someone like I've been through all of this stuff. So I help a lot of people with dating again and getting back into dating and questions to ask and, different things like that so you can prevent the red flags.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's something that definitely therapy has helped you do. So, yeah, that's that's okay. That's one way to look at it. Okay, very interesting.
Yeah, if you're willing for it to work, it'll definitely help. If you're willing.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't get the help, well, now that I'm older, I see certain things that I wouldn't have saw, 25 years ago. Well, let me say that again. Now that I'm older, I see certain things now that 25 years ago I just wouldn't have gave a fuck. I didn't care about all that shit. I just wanted to date, and I just wanted to, be in a relationship. I didn't want to hear all that bullshit. Now, I see certain things within women that I come across, and I automatically say, okay, she's a candidate that needs therapy. For example, the other day I came across this lady, very attractive. I was speaking to her. I wasn't running game, but I was just speaking to her and seeing where her head is. And I noticed on her fingers that she had the words, fuck love on one hand. One hand she had fuck, and the other hand it was love. So fuck love. So I'm thinking, what is that? And she started talking to me, and fuck love, and it was fuck guys, and blah blah blah. Men are such blah 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 blah. blah. I said, okay, and all right, you have a nice day. So I'm thinking, I have compassion, I have empathy, but I'm not, I don't want to do all that shit, So, but if you don't get the help that you need, could it turn into raw anger?
If you don't get the help you need, it turns into fuck love and a tattoo on your hands. It's a tough thing. I understand where she's coming from, absolutely. Because I think at one point or another we've all been burned and we all blame love, but love has nothing to do with it. It's ourselves. So I think a big part of growing and healing and learning is when you do meet someone that you like, people always talk about communicating, right? You gotta communicate. Communicating is great. I think communicating is super necessary. However, if you don't understand the person that you're trying to communicate with, communication doesn't do anything. It's the same thing as, being in a house and telling someone it's on fire, and you're like, the house is on fire, we need to leave, and they only understand German. So you're communicating perfectly that the house is about to burn.
Wow.
And they're looking at you like, don't know what you're saying, and you're communicating it, but they don't understand. So when we meet people, we have to understand where they are coming from. We have this idea of love that if the man comes in and he's going to rescue us, and he's going to take care of us, and he's going to do these amazing things. And then when you meet someone and the man doesn't do those amazing things, you're disappointed. And then you start saying men suck. What? Because Prince Charming, who was raised to be charming, not sincere, gave you a false hope of what men are supposed to be like? So it's definitely, understanding. It's like we got to understand, like, who do we have in front of us? Where did this person come from? That's where they say, like, talk to someone about how they grew up and where they grew up and what their relationships are like with their family and all this, because that's going to tell you a lot of what you need to know. There's a lot of ways you can educate yourself before getting out there and dating and trying to meet people. Personally, I am specializing in love attachments. Love attachments, if you haven't read this book, Attached, yet, check it out, because it's going to help you so much. And when you look at the different love attachments, then you understand your love attachment, where it comes from, and the girl that you met the other day with the tattoo, what her love attachment is, and understand a little bit more of like where she's coming from. But once you understand each other, then you can communicate in the way that the other person's going to understand. So if I try to communicate something to you and you're not understanding it the way I'm communicating it, I need to adjust the way I'm explaining something to you. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, oh, well, you're wrong because you don't understand where I'm coming from. What? No, if you truly want to make something work with someone and they're not understanding what you're saying, find a different way to explain it to them. Find a different way, and vice versa. So it's definitely a give and take, but understanding is the basis. We have to understand where everyone's coming from. So now, if you go out and you meet someone with a tattoo, you can easily guess, okay, this person's been hurt. You know, like what happened with this person. And if you're the hurt person and you don't get help, then you are never going to attract the type of person you want. So if you're angry and you think love is horrible and you have the idea that all men suck, every single man that you meet is going to suck because that's what you're attracting.
Right. Okay.
When I was dating before I met the guy that I'm dating now, I remember saying that, like, oh man, I have a second book coming out, and it's dating after a toxic relationship, what the recovery looks like, unhealthy dating, and then healthy dating, and then the first year of this relationship that I've been in, and the differences. So when I started dating, I was dating unhealthy because I was dating too soon after my toxic relationship ended while I was still in recovery. And I remember saying, wow, I keep attracting the same guy, because I wasn't healthy. Once I got healthy, men, different caliber type of men were coming into my life. Had I not gotten healthy, the man I'm dating now would have looked at me like I had 10 heads and would have ran the other way. Because he's the kind of man that I want, the type of man that I want. He's motivated, he's successful, he's super intelligent, he's all these amazing things that I really wasn't finding before him because I wasn't ready for it and I wasn't healthy. So we always attract what we're ready for. Apparently I was ready for a bunch of garbage, so that's what I had before. So, I mean, that's like the thing. It's like, because you're a good guy, and a woman that you met with a tattoo who said, you know, blah, blah, all men suck, you're going to run away from a person like that. You're not going to go to a woman that thinks that all men suck. Oh, you think men suck? You want to go out next week? No.
Exactly.
You didn't look at that, you know, you didn't say to her, challenge accepted. You were like, yeah, my mom's calling me for dinner. I got to go. You know, where it's like, so like if you have that attitude and you say it to people out loud, they're going to run away from you. Yeah, I think definitely healing and getting help and recognizing that regardless of how the relationship ended, whether there was cheating, whether there was, you know, it just didn't really fit, that we all have accountability in the end and the demise of that relationship. And within that relationship, because you're with, you know, Fred, who you were with for 2 years and he cheated on you, that doesn't mean you're this innocent victim who was, oh no, cheated on, all Fred sucks. No, we've got to look at our accountability regardless of what Fred did, you know, and figure out what we did wrong. So when a relationship ends, take that time to really figure out, okay, where did I go wrong in this relationship? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? Where can I improve? And then you work on that and get help for that if you need it.
Okay. And that brings me to my last question. So, what would be your advice to anyone that's listening to this particular episode? You know, if they think they need help or they're on the fence, they might need help. They might get it. Or absolutely not. I'm not getting it. What would be your advice to both men and women, of course, on, you know, making that last step on getting the help that they need, even if they think they need it? You know, if they talk to a therapist and say, you know, the therapist say, you know, we talked and I think you're okay, blah, 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 and I don't think you need any help. You just need time or whatever the case may be. What is your advice of having someone at least go through with, you know, making a final step of determining if they actually need help, you know?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think if you're even thinking about it, then you probably should do it. If it's on your mind that you feel like you need to do something like that, I think you should definitely go through it because there's nothing wrong with going in and having one session. You know, so it's like, you can do that. You can make the time. You can go in and kind of talk about things. But you also have other options. So we have therapy that is great. We have life coaches that are great because they kind of look at like things in a different way, where a therapist is going to look at everything from when you were younger and kind of evaluate you all the way up, and they usually do like a big deep dive. But if you feel like you don't know if you need something, you could talk to a life coach and say, hey, these are the things I'm thinking about. Can you help me with these 2 or 3 things? And you can kind of go that way. But I think if you're thinking about it, and I think if you've been in a relationship, male or female, where you were cheated on, you felt like you don't understand why the relationship ended, you don't understand, I didn't do anything wrong, why did this end? It would be a good idea to go talk to someone and say, yeah, these are the things, whatever, these happen, and people can help you kind of figure out, because it's always better to have outside eyes looking in, because they are, they can be biased, they can look at the situation, they can be honest with you and say, you know what, this is what you probably did wrong, and it's not coming from a friend or a family member, it's coming from somebody who you're asking for help, and they're going to be able to point you in the right direction. So I think if you've been in something, it's always good to, when you get out, to go and talk to someone. And maybe you might just need some time to heal. Maybe you need to pick up some hobbies. Or maybe there is something really going on that you need to figure out, and you will end up in the right place for it.
All right. Sounds great. All right. Well, thank you, Kelly, for taking the time out of your day and talking to me about this very important topic that I think is not really taken seriously in today's society. A lot of people are walking around fucked up, and they don't know that they're fucked up. So that's the problem. It's one thing being an addict and you saying, "Well, I'm sick," and getting the help that you need. But when you're walking around and still doing the thing that you're doing, and saying, "I don't need help," that's where the problem comes in. And there's a lot of people walking around like that. So I'm glad. I really appreciate you coming to me on my show and talking to me about this important topic. And I know that you wrote a book that I said when I first started the show, Signs in the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind. You have another book coming out. What is it about?
So this book is about my recovery program that I went through after my toxic relationship. Breaks it down. I am way too honest about everything I went through. And then I talk about dating unhealthy and what that looks like. And I do give examples of a lot of dates that I went on. So you'll learn a lot about me in this book, actually. From there, I talk about then dating healthy and how it feels to date healthy and what that actually looks like. And then I do go and talk about the first year of dating someone healthy and the fears that you have going into it after a toxic relationship, like that first big serious relationship after something so toxic, and like what that looks like, and some of the fears that you might have. And I write about me going through it and how I handled a lot of it.
Okay. So that definitely sounds very interesting. So keep a lookout for that second book. I'm sure people will learn to find it. What's your Twitter?
My Twitter is Kelly, what is it? Oh my goodness, I don't even know. Kelly S. Author. Kelly S. _author. Gosh, I don't even know. That's terrible. I'm so sorry.
Kelly's with an S and then _author.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's your Twitter page, and your podcast is the Let's Get Wicked Deep podcast.
Yep.
And you can also find you're on iTunes. And I know you're on Spreaker, but people can go to the Podbreed Network as well, correct?
Yes. Yep, they definitely can. And then Instagram, I'm Kelly Smith Dating Coach. And then Kelly Smith Author on Facebook. Okay.
And what's your website address as well?
My website is kellysmithdatingcoach.com.
All righty. That is a wrap. And I think that... we have all that we need. And again, I really appreciate you coming to me, talking to me today. And because we have to talk about this. This is very important. I think that, we as a society don't talk about this type of thing. And, there's a lot of people walking around with old wounds from relationships that never healed or never even... put a Band-Aid on,
Yep.
So...
They put the blame on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of people walking around with tattoos that says "fuck love," so...
Yeah, I feel bad. That breaks my heart. But yeah, I get where she's coming from. But yeah, that's not a challenge you want to accept.
Exactly. Yeah. And I politely declined and walked away. Oh my!
That you did that.
All right. Well, thanks, Kelly, for joining me, and I'll definitely let you know when the episode come out. And I really appreciate it. If you need anything from me ever, let me know. I'll be, I'm here. You know how to get in contact with me, but I really appreciate you coming on my show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I really had a good time. Thank you. I needed that laugh.
All right. All right. Well, you have a good night.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
All right. Later.
All right. Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode interview with Kelly Smith, dating coach and author. Be sure to check out the XY Show in your favorite venue. I'm on Spotify. I'm on iHeartRadio. I'm on Castbox. I'm on Stitcher, Blueberry, TuneIn, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. So whatever one tickles your fancy, be sure to subscribe to me, and I will very much appreciate that. Keep in mind that you can get in contact with me with my social media. I'm on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can find all of that, my platforms and my social media, on my website, which is www.thexyshow.com, www.thexyshow.com. Also, there's a contact form there. Just say hello, any constructive criticisms, any episode recommendations. It's all there. Also want to give you a heads up. There is a newsletter that I'll be start doing weekly. And the XY Show will be moving to a weekly podcast, so keep an eye out for that as well. So, and also, I am working on the store, so it's coming. So, without further ado, thank you, and remember, you cannot have love without X and Y. Later.
You've been listening to The X and Y Show with your host, Roosevelt Colbert, the place where real relationship issues are talked about and addressed. Join us next time. You can now put your clothes back on. Or not.